Alright guys, and so a happy Halloween to all of you. I hope you all are staying safe out there, and it's the spooky season where we all watch scary movies and get creeped out and scared as heck. And even with those horror films and that like really scary, even with the ones that are all the classic ones that are made to be the best horror films of all time, and so much more. And that's what today for you guys in this video is ranking all the best horror films from worst to best, even though with the ones that are the more recent ones, even though with the ones that are the older, more classic ones that are made to be the best of all time, and so much more. And so if you're new here, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so future videos. And so let's get into it. Starting at last place at number 10 is Nope. And now this is coming from Jordan Peele, and even with his horror films that have come out, and even with this one, which I found to be solid, and even with Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, which they play a great Sylvan duo. I like their roles in this film, even with the entire premise alone, and with them trying to capture a UFO just so they can get rich to prove that they exist. And even with the entire atmosphere, it felt really good. But even with those scary and suspenseful moments that I just really creep up, and even with some like reveals, and even with that, it just felt like a little bit boring, like in between. And even with that monkey, like it somehow, if it made like no sense to the plot, but even with it coming from Jordan Peele himself, like he knows how to make a great horror film. And even for how it unfolds, especially within the 5 minutes of the movie, and even within the third act, it kind of felt good, but at the same time, it feels pretty solid. And next at number 9 is Split, and now this is coming from M. Night Shyamalan and Blumhouse, and this is the film with James McAvoy and him like in this role, and with this character that has like multiple personalities. I mean, like 23 of them to be exact, who kidnaps these 3 girls and traps them in a room, and like that's a fight for survival in order to get out. And we see all these events play out, and with his role like visiting Dr. Fletcher, and even with this like a 24th one about to be unleashed, and even for now it's all set up and with the atmosphere of it. I mean, like James McAvoy definitely delivers on this role. It's his best performance, especially in M. Night Shyamalan film, and even Blumhouse definitely crushed it with this like psychotic a thriller, and even with the entire cast, they nailed the roles. And even towards the end of it, with that surprise ending, usually it's setting up for the next film, Glass. But I definitely enjoyed my time with it, and this was one of the best horror films, especially from M. Night Shyamalan. And next, at number 8 is Friday the 13th, and now this was the introduction of the popular horror character Jason Voorhees and Kim Crystal Lake, and even with its entire premise of like people that like go to Kim and with a killer on a loose and killing them one by one, and even that this was released way back in the early 80s with like Kevin Bacon, a part of that cast, as well, who would later go on to be a singer, and even with the entire atmosphere and premise, and even with that score too, and even for what Sean Cunningham did with this film, I feel like he did a good job, but I feel like it was like a letdown because we didn't see a Jason Voorhees. But I think everyone nailed their performances, even for how the kills went down, and even towards like the end of it. I mean, it was solid. I definitely had my time with it, but I think this was a good introduction, especially for Jason Voorhees. And next, at number 7 is Final Destination. And now, I think this one really set the tone and really off the edge, and really with the franchise that was also almost gonna be based on like a real life thing, and even with this entire story of like someone having a premonition of like everyone being killed, and even when that event does happen, even with the survivors that get killed off one by one, and with death coming after them, and knowing how like achieve death. But even with the entire franchise, which I think it's like a great horror franchise, I definitely like the first 2 movies, but even though with the rest of them, which kind of be pretty solid, but even so, I just really enjoy for what they have, and even with some new ideas that I did bring to the table for each entry in the Final Destination franchise, because I think there's like a new one coming out pretty soon, a 6th one. Even so, I just like the Final Destination franchise, especially with the whole story alone. Coming in at number 6 is A Child's Play, and now this is the film that started it all. It introduced Chucky the doll, and even with the Good Guy doll in general, even with the story of Chucky the doll landing in the hands of Andy, it would later go on to be like an evil doll, and like going on killing people, and so this became a cultural phenomenon, and will later go on to have spin-off movies and even to have its own TV show, which I think it's a pretty good show, by the way, and a TV show is very good. But even with A Child's Play that came out way back in the late 80s in 1988, but I feel like with that film alone, I thought it was like a great film and a great introduction of Chucky the doll, and even with the reports that come out that Chucky versus Megan movie might happen, but I doubt that, but I would like for that to happen. But even with A Child's Play, which I think it's a definitely good spooky time. And next, coming in at number 5 is It from 2017. And now this was the introduction of Pennywise the Clown, and even one of my favorite horror characters, and even with Bill Skarsgård, that definitely portrays the character perfectly. And this was based on the novel by Stephen King, and even with the simple story of these teenagers, also known as the Losers Club, that spend the whole summer trying to defeat a clown and how to defeat him, and even with that Nebo house, and even with the story alone. Plus, I think I definitely like the Richie kid played by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, but even with the entire story of it, and that it takes place like in the 80s, and it will later go on to have a later sequel called It Chapter 2, which I found to be a solid sequel. But even with it in general, and with the introduction of Pennywise, I feel like it's one of those scary movies, and even that's having a disturbing stuff, but that it had like shape-shifting abilities. But even with It from 2017, which I found to be another great horror film. Coming in at number 4 is Scream. Now, this is one of those horror movie franchises that I absolutely adore, especially with everyone's favorite horror character, Ghostface. Even with the story, and even with the town of Woodsboro, and even with Neve Campbell's portrayal of Cindy Prescott. I think like she's like the best final girl, and even with Matthew Lillard, who is awesome as Stu Munker, and I thought he is like a great character, and even with like the entire story and with the plot, and even references from horror movies that are thrown in here, and this going to be like the best horror franchise ever, especially as it is still going strong, especially as I love the last one, Scream 6, and even like this remains to be a great horror movie franchise. And next, at number 3 is Halloween from 1978. And now, this was the clear introduction to Michael Myers, and even with Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. I feel like she portrays that role perfectly, and even that everyone loves her as the final girl. And as even with the story of Michael Myers stalking and killing all those babysitters, and even like just going on to have so many spin-off films and so many different timelines, and it will later go on to have a trilogy made by Blumhouse. Even though with those last two films certainly were not good, but even with the entire like story and the entire franchise, and it will later go on to be a cultural phenomenon, especially with the character alone of Michael Myers, and just even with the origin and the legend of it, I consider this to be another great horror film to be watched, especially around the spooky season. Next, coming in at number 2 is Get Out, and now this is another great horror film from Jordan Peele, and also a Blumhouse film in general. And even with having this simple story of a man going to visit his girlfriend's house, and even with his girlfriend's family, it's not as it seems, and even having an unexpected twist that'll have you on the edge of your seat. And I just generally love the cast in general, especially as Daniel Kaluuya and also Williams that definitely deliver on their roles, and even that, like, I found this to be a great horror entry, and like, I just found myself really intrigued and really falling in love with this film, especially I think this is the best one from Jordan Peele. But coming at number 1 and the best horror film of all time is The Shining from Stanley Kubrick, and I feel like with everything that I adapted in this film, it was definitely great, and especially this was another one of those great films that was based on the novel by Stephen King, even from the opening minutes to the opening score, even with the atmosphere, with the Overlook Hotel, even with the suspenseful and scary moments that happen throughout the film, and even with its unexpected twist that happens, even with Jack Nicholson that definitely delivers on his role as Jack Torrance, especially with that iconic line, "Here's Johnny," and it'll literally going to be like a trend, especially in like commercials and other movies. So I just love it, so especially with Danny Torrance, especially as like this kid who has visions and things that can't be explained, even having his imaginary friend Tony. And I just love the entire story in general, and it will literally going to be like just a great masterpiece, and just another one of those great horror films, especially coming from Stanley Kubrick. And yeah, so that does it from my ranking. Even with the spooky season, and even with these scary films and that are recent, even with the ones that are old classic ones that everyone loves to enjoy this time around, especially during the scary season, and even with the ones that I definitely enjoyed, and even for what was the story for next year and for next Halloween as well. So yeah, this is my ranking, and I definitely enjoyed all these spooky season movies, and I recommend them, and these are definitely a great recommend, especially during the spooky season as well. And so that is going to be the first video, and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, and what thoughts on my ranking and how to rank all these best horror films from worst to best. And let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe, and turn the notification bell for future videos. And also, happy Halloween to all of you. Hope you're all staying safe out there, and also follow my social, which are linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.